Okay, maybe this time it will work. What's up, guys? I am back with another reaction video. Sorry for being a little frustrated. I have tried to record this video like 4 times. The first time, the audio was bad. Then I fixed the audio. The second time, my mouse died, and for some reason I couldn't exit out because I'm using my laptop and I'm connecting it to a monitor. And for some reason, it just stopped showing, and both my mic, not my mic, my mouse and my keyboard just stopped working. And anyway, I think I got everything figured out now, so I'm gonna be calm, I'm gonna be cool, I'm gonna be collected. Actually, the third time I'm at my mom's house right now, she wanted to talk to me, so I think now I got everything figured out. So with this video, we are going to I am going to react to the UFC's biggest failure, the Demetrious Johnson documentary by Mixed Martial Academic. Like a lot of people, I picked up a lot of new things since the pandemic, and MMA was one of them in terms of watching it. I used to box a little bit after college. I just went to a boxing gym to box because that was a great way to stay in shape. Shout out to Nick and the people back in Kansas City. And Demetrious Johnson, one of those guys I just kind of gravitated to. It's a shame that I never actually got to see him fight live, but his story has been fantastic. Like a lot of the UFC fighters, man, they come from nothing and they work their way up to the top, being some of the baddest people on the planet. And Demetrious Johnson has that similar kind of story. So I've seen this video before when I recorded it 4 different times, so I already kind of know what's going on, but I still think this video is worth reacting to. And check out the Mixed Martial Academic, check out the Fighting Business, who also has another one about opponents before and after fighting. Demetrious Johnson, aka Mighty Mouse, which is still a fantastic nickname for a fighter. And you check him out. There's YouTube has a lot of things, but one person particularly I wanted to point out, because I'm gonna do some reactions to some of his videos, is Patrick Gavia. He has a lot of videos regarding the regarding fighting, and he also did a Demetrious Johnson documentary, but his ends a little bit earlier because he obviously made this before Mixed Martial Academic did, where Mighty Mouse is trying to get his get back on Adriano Moraes after losing to him earlier. So he's trying to get his get back, and Mixed Martial Academic, I believe, covers his entire career, because as of right now, I believe Demetrious Johnson retired from MMA. I think he's gonna do maybe a few grappling events, but I think he's retired. But I mean, if that's it for him, what a hell of a career, man. Demetrious Johnson is arguably the greatest UFC fighter of all time. He's just maybe not going to he's not going to cut the mustard for some people because he's a flyweight and he's short, but it doesn't matter. I think he has double-digit title defenses in the UFC. He went over to one championship and became a champion. And he didn't do it the easy way. He immediately got a title shot. He worked his way up to Adriano Moraes. Even though he lost, he came back and beat him twice to seal the trilogy. So a lot of people, even GSP was out here saying, man, especially when he went on Joe Rogan's podcast and talked to him, yo, this is the greatest freaking UFC, this is the greatest UFC fighter in the planet right now, when they talked. And I wonder where he would stack up all time, because if I gave him my height, I'm 6'1", 6'2". I think he might be the greatest UFC fighter of all time. He's technically sound, man. He got everything figured out. He's got his life figured out. He has the perfect work-life balance that everybody else strives to find, and he got it figured out. And that's one of the reasons I'm drawn to him and drawn to his story. So check out Patrick Gavia. He has a few, his Ngannou video, where he doesn't even talk about Ngannou in the UFC. He just talks about how Ngannou got to the UFC, and it's freaking amazing. One I'm definitely going to react to is Jake Paul versus Dana White, and they talk about fighter pay and all that, and it was such an illuminating documentary at the time, which is crazy because when you realize how UFC fighters are paid, especially compared to their contemporaries in other sports, even I believe the lowest NFL player makes $200,000. That's a good life. If you make it $200,000 a year, and let's just say you're still on the bottom end of the UFC, and $200,000 a year is a nice living if you just live within your means. UFC fighters are barely making, the lowest ones barely make $50,000, which makes sense to see how the UFC has grown so crazy, and the fact that Dana White, and with MMA, you get the fights you want to see, right? You do most of the time. Get the fights you want to see because Dana White, especially in the West, is making those fights, but at the same time, he's like a tyrant. I still don't know if tyrant's the right word, but my goodness, man, he's they're both good and bad things to Dana White being the overall ruler of the UFC, so to speak. I know he still answers to some bosses, but like, the UFC's grown and Dana White's a big part of that, but he's also a big part of some of the bad things with the UFC, especially pertaining to its champions, especially its black champions. There's a trend there. Sure, people are going to throw like some exceptions, like you can throw like John Jones, who I think he's just so talented at MMA that anybody would keep giving him chances. If you were Dana White, you just keep giving him chances because he brings butts to seats, and he's just so good. The fact that he took a couple years off, came in and beat Cyril Gane, he's now the world heavyweight champion. Like, it's crazy, And then there's Ngannou. Ngannou was cool until Ngannou wanted more money because he is one of the biggest, if not the biggest draw at the UFC at the time, and Dana White went on that press conference and just tried to disparage him, tear down his reputation, call him soft, and now Ngannou's winning. Like, he's gonna fight Tyson Fury in a boxing match and make more money in that one fight than he ever did in the UFC. And it's crazy to see that. I mean, Conor McGregor. It's crazy how he embraced Conor McGregor. Dana White embraced Conor McGregor fighting Mayweather like that, but he couldn't figure out something with Ngannou to find a way. Like, he's one of your biggest draws, and you just let him go, and you're gonna talk bad about him. And wherever Ngannou goes, I mean, I'm definitely gonna watch because that guy is a Mack truck and he hits hard. So I wonder how that boxing fight's gonna go. I fully anticipate Tyson Fury winning. I mean, if he could survive Deontay Wilder's power, I don't see why he couldn't survive Ngannou's power, especially because Ngannou's like the hardest puncher in UFC history. Oh my God, I'm so curious to see how that fight will go, even though I think Tyson Fury will end up like boxing circles around Ngannou. Man, but every time Ngannou throws one, I'm like, this could be it. This could be it. Tyson Fury could get slept. So, yeah, he has a few ones. Like I already mentioned Ngannou. I mentioned the fighter pay one. He has one on Colby Covington, who's just like, I wonder when he's done fighting what he's going to think of his career. But it doesn't matter. But he has one, ironically, on Tyson Fury himself. He has one on Khabib. He talks about Dana White's rise to being, America's most savage CEO. Then there's also, he has one on Adesanya, but the one I really enjoyed was the one about the guy who runs ONE FC. I can't say his name, so I'm not even going to try. I don't want to disrespect his name like that. But it was such an illuminating documentary. So, ooh boy. We got some good ones coming, but you got check out Mighty Mouse's gaming channel. He streams, He also does reaction videos. He's a YouTuber, like me and the rest of and a lot of other people, right? And he does reaction videos. So I know he's reacted to a few videos about him. I know he did. He reacted to the MMA one. I know he reacted to Patrick Gavier's one. He even did the one on the fighting business, the before and after. He's also really good friends with Henry Cejudo, who they fought twice and they both beat each other. And I think right after Henry Cejudo beat Demetrious Johnson in a controversial finish. I watched the fight, in my limited MMA knowledge, I thought Demetrious won the fight, even though Cejudo definitely, he fought well. But I'm like, And then right after that, Dana White's like, get this dude out of here, and traded him for Ben Askren, and ONE FC or ONE championship. Definitely won the trade. Maybe one of the worst trades in sports history, low key. But check out his channel. I mean, find him on Twitch. He got merch. Like, he's doing stuff, man. So let's hop right into this video. Plus, I got some things to talk about regarding the channel at the end of the video. So hopefully I remember. If not, let's just enjoy the video.
the UFC will release Demetrious Johnson, allowing him to sign with one.
Why would the UFC dispose of their greatest athlete?
He has the lowest selling pay-per-view in the history of the UFC.
This is potentially groundbreaking news.
I heard you had something to do with it as well. The idea of a trade.
Oh, check him out when he's on Joe Rogan's podcast, Demetrious, or Mighty Mouse. Check him out. It's just fascinating to hear him talk. That's what makes Joe Rogan's podcast so great. You just people talking. Sometimes it can be fucking around like the old, what was it? When he used to have his boys and they'd watch MMA fights together and they just fuck around with Eddie, the conspiracy theorist. You have Brian Callen and the fucking Brendan Schaub, who I swear to God everybody hates, but I loved. Were they called the Fight Companion ones before they went? Before he went exclusive to Spotify, and I know a lot of people were mad, but I'm not turning down $100 million. Spotify willing to give me $100 million to just do what I was doing regularly. I'm not turning it down. So, Joe Rogan, I know he stepped in a lot of shit lately, but he still has. I know a lot of people say it's the biggest podcast on the planet. I also think it could be the most powerful podcast on the planet, depending on who he has on there. I know I'm doing a tangent here about Joe Rogan, but like if he ever has Donald Trump on his podcast, if he ever has, like, let's just say he has Obama on his podcast, the shit that could go down in terms of him talking. Because, he doesn't mince words. He'd be like, yo, what's going on here? Why did you do this? Why did you say this? Why did you promise this? Oh, God. I'm telling you, that could be some shit. But I've talked long enough. Let's get back into this fucking video. Also, I love Mighty Mouse's beard. I wish I could grow a beard like him. I'm so jealous. Making the bald beard look great. And don't look down on him just because he's short and he's skinny. He will murder you. He will murder you.
In mixed martial arts. Can you remember this ever happening?
I love the deal. I love it.
Demetrious Johnson appears to be headed to 1. And Ben
I got a little something to sip on too.
UFC.
What
the question
a bad
was,
trade.
in the waters of another organization, would he sink or would he swim? From a troubling childhood
People come
One
out
day I
there
wanna
and
make
put us in the
videos like
corner
this.
and put our hands up.
to greatness,
Ooh, that flying armbar.
this is the untold story of Demetrious Johnson. Before the trade, there was the most dominant UFC champion.
I believe it was Patrick Gavia called him the belt collector when watching Mighty Mouse's rise to the UFC and how dominant he was in the UFC, just taking belts.
In the history of the company.
What, you know what synthwave is?
No.
It all
Let me pause. Okay. Because of watching this video 4 times, I started getting into synthwave. I've listened to a few songs while I was like fixing everything. Oh God, synthwave is nice. You just kind of vibing like, hey. I feel like the next time because sometimes I just go out. There's this place by my crib where I can have a really nice view of the city, and I'll just go up there next time. Maybe have something to sip on and just relax and watch it because I can walk there from where I live. And oh Lord, put some synthwave on and just vibe. Oh boy, let's play that again. So what's up with Dana's face, bro? Look at his face. What's up, bro? What you doing?
started for the legend,
No.
the most dominant UFC champion in the history of the company.
Let's go.
You know what synthwave is?
No.
It all started for the legend with the introduction of the flyweight division into the UFC.
I believe it's
a four-man
125
tournament
pounds,
to
right?
determine the new
flyweight?
undisputed champion.
Round 1. Fight! Round 2.
Fight.
The tournament would place the lofty crown upon the head of a young, hungry Demetrious Johnson. But as the gold belt shimmered around his waist and the arena echoed
Oh, by the way, I thought the old UFC. Know what? I'll bring it up once we get to where I want to go.
with thunderous
bring it up
applause,
then.
I doubt they understood.
Oh, there we go. I still love the old UFC belts. I just love them, man. Like I want, especially as I hopefully build things out, things get a little crazy, or eventually I want to build like a studio, so to speak, or like a set that I can have. I want to get that belt. You know, people who make like belt replicas. If somebody knows where I could get, there's a few belts I want. I want the UFC, the old school UFC belt. Oh, look at that thing. Freaking sexy. And he has like 3 of them, bro. Oh, he's shining. But I want the UFC belt. I want the new WWE Championship belt. I think those ones look cool. I hated the spinner one that John Cena brought in. And I don't like the old, like the Attitude Era WWE Championship. I'm not a fan of that. But I do want the Smoking Skull version of that, though. That one, I thought that one looked hard as hell. Then I want, I want the old school World Heavyweight Championship belt. I think the new one that Seth Rollins has is disgusting. Who thought that was a good idea? That looks nasty in my opinion. Oh God. Oh, I almost hate it as much as I don't like the new UFC belts. I think the new ones look ugh. And then I want the United States Championship belt that John Cena was carrying around when he was like maybe one of the best reigns as a United States champion. Everyone was doing those United States Open challenges, and we were just getting bangers every Monday. Oh God. But I want those 5 belts. So if somebody knows where I get these belts, let me know in the comments. I think these belts look great. Especially, look at that USC one. I know everybody has some kind of prize when you were a kid or whatever. I got a few plaques or trophies or whatever. I'd give all of them to have one of those belts. Oh God. And he got 3 of them just running around. If DJ ever, or Demetrious Johnson ever sees this video, I'm not gonna call him DJ. We're not familiar like that. I would love to talk to him face to face. He seems like one of those people like you could sit down and just have a beer and talk about life with, because you know he's experienced things, and I've always been interested in that in terms of life experiences. And then I'd be like, hey, after we talk, I'm like, can I see the belts? Please let me see those belts. Like, even if you don't let me, can you like take a picture of him and send it to me? Because I think that'd be awesome. Because I know he got a few championship ones too, plus whatever other organizations he got. He I don't know if he has a trophy or like a belt room. I don't know if he's that kind of guy, but maybe in his closet he just like has like a whole bunch of them, and I want to see them. Oh.
Understood what this man's future would entail, nor the dark path that led here.
64% of African-American children live in fatherless homes.
You've never had a relationship with your father?
Yep. Never seen a picture, never seen
even though nothing, I do have a relationship
part
with
of
my
life,
dad.
you know?
DJ's life would start a statistical probability for newly born African-Americans without a father. His mother, in an attempt to provide stability for her children, would find herself between different marriages, looking for a chance to escape the same fate as those others in DJ's small hometown.
My sister told me stories that they lived on the border of Kentucky, and military men would pass by all the time, and your ticket out of there was military.
Blinking like crazy.
And that's the way she did, and she would travel. She'd been married multiple times to different military men. So,
but in that search for freedom,
also in Patrick Gavia's video, like his mother was deaf, so he never knew. Like when he was a kid, his mother was deaf, so she was just making it through life, like and being deaf, and she learned how to like read lips really well. So I mean, that's crazy that she was just kind of, you know, she had to do what she had to do to make sure her kids had the best life she could give them. And so I that's a lot of respect, because I grew up as a single. I know I said no more personal stuff, but like my mom was a single mother, so I'll always love her for that, because you know she did the best she could, and you know I wouldn't be where I am today without her. So that's crazy. Like she was deaf and she just somehow made it work with multiple kids.
Monster would walk through the door.
I had an abusive stepfather who was, you know, military based, putting us in the corner for 15 minutes, getting whipped. One thing it did, it made me mentally tough.
Despite that dark and merciless time spent in childhood, it would shape a resilient, hard-working individual, not cut from the same cloth as the man that failed to raise him. From a scholarship-worthy wrestling and cross-country background to meeting his future wife, Destiny, working at Red Lobster, Johnson was determined to break the cycle of working a monotonous 9-to-5. An avenue would eventually show itself to him in the form of mixed martial arts. Whilst working multiple jobs and the help of his...
So even when, because I watched his reaction to Patrick Gavia's thing, he was working full time while working his way up to be flyweight champion. So yes, when he was doing that tournament and all that stuff, he was still working full time, training and fighting in the UFC, which showed you just how much money UFC fighters are getting paid. Like, and then he became champion, and I think that's when he finally like left his job to become a full-time UFC fighter, so to speak.
His future wife, his hard work would finally pay off. Johnson would see a rise through the sport that showcased glimpses of the greatness to follow.
DJ Mighty Mouse Johnson! Oh my God! Wow. DJ Mighty Mouse Johnson!
Way to embrace that name too, because I know there was a football player. His name was Doug Martin. He was a running back. He was like really short. They called him the Muscle Hamster, and I thought that was an awesome name, but he didn't like it, so he didn't embrace it. I'm like, bro, embrace that thing, make some merch, and let's keep it moving.
Demetrious Johnson. Unanimous decision. Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson.
Oh boy.
With a 10-1 record, DJ, despite all the odds against him, had earned his first shot at UFC gold against the consensus bantamweight GOAT, Dominic Cruz.
You can see the clear size.
And still bantamweight champion of the world.
One thing was apparent in the fight, and to be honest his whole career previously, DJ was severely undersized for the division, which in retrospect simply adds to Johnson's legacy. A move up in weight class is often branded as a brave turn in a combat athlete's career, as they attempt to challenge.
Also, shout out to Xbox for 360 sponsoring Mighty Mouse. Hey, that's a big get. Low key, right? Especially back then. 360 was killing it. Maybe my favorite console. Yeah, it's my favorite console. Even though I got a PS2. It's my favorite console, I think.
Those bigger than them. But for DJ, it was an inherent problem. He was one of the lightest fighters in the lightest division the UFC had, and he wasn't alone in that fact. There were many other fighters undersized and losing not because of talent or skill, but just sheer size. And so it was no surprise when the UFC...
Oh, this is ironic. This is an ironic freaking picture right now, because later Dana White would do all he could to destroy Ariel Helwani's career, especially when he got him fired from, basically, I don't know if you can say fired, but he got him kicked out of ESPN when the UFC merged, when the UFC entered into a partnership with ESPN.
He opened the flyweight division at 125 pounds. Those fighters placed at a disadvantage would migrate down to the new weight class. The UFC crowned its new champion with the aforementioned tournament, and Demetrious may have came out on top, but there were other fighters looking to prove that they were worthy of championship gold. But being worthy doesn't necessarily mean that you are capable. See, Demetrious was destined for greatness, and that belt around his waist wasn't going anywhere.
I gotta cut these out. And Joe Rogan was saying that before a lot of people when looking at like the old videos. He was calling him the best pound for pound fighter on the planet. Oh, that's the flying armbar right there. So there are a lot of like entries for the greatest knockout of all time, but there's no question about the greatest submission of all time. Or maybe it's the greatest submission in UFC history. I know I touched on Ben Askren and his kind of journey in the UFC after getting traded. He gets knocked out in 1 second by that flying knee by Masvidal. He fights a couple times and he loses, then he goes to fight Jake Paul, whatever. But what I probably watched that flying arm bar submission of DJ's maybe like once a week. It's incredible. I don't know how you just think of that mid-fight. He was like picking him up, I think for a suplex, or he was going to drop him or something. And then he just switches in midair and gets him in the arm bar. And I mean, my boy over here is shook. He doesn't know what the hell just happened. He's shook. What the fuck just happened? Bro, what's going on? I would have been losing my mind if I was there. How the hell do you just think about doing that? The greatest, maybe one of the greatest submissions, at least I've ever seen in my time watching any kind of combat sport. Oh my God. And he won every which way you'd like it. He beat all the challengers.
From 5-round slugfests to last-second submissions, knockouts and flying armbars, Johnson carved out of the history books his name, the most dominant champion of all time. A record that still to this day is seemingly going nowhere. For me, when I started watching the sport...
There's some killers in the UFC now. To even get to, like, was it 7 or 8 title defenses in a row is tough. I think McGregor never even defended his titles, right? When he became double champ. He never even defended them because immediately he went to go make all the money fighting Floyd Mayweather. So
he was the reason to tune into an event. Technically brilliant, defensively sound, but perhaps most importantly, seemingly unbeatable. The politics of the sport didn't concern me at the time. And well, to say I was surprised at the events to follow would be an understatement. In the background of Demetrious Johnson's historic title run, there was something far more sinister going on. The details of Johnson's mistreatment were brought to light in an open letter raised by DJ on June 5th, 2017. A 2,000-word breakdown of the mistreatment that Johnson had faced while champion in the organization, from failure to promote their greatest athlete.
Sean and Dana have confirmed UFC's lack of desire to put any effort into promoting us.
I don't understand that as an organization. I understand that it's not the glamour divisions of welterweight, lightweight, maybe even middleweight at the time, and heavyweight, right? Those are always you're always going to watch heavyweights throw down because these are big hosses throwing bombs at each other and somebody could go out, okay? But if you have somebody in your organization dominating a division to the point he's winning every which way you want it, okay? Like he said, last second slugfest, last second, 5-round slugfest, last second submissions. He's knocking people out. He just did the greatest submission anybody has ever seen in your organization's history. Why are you, for lack of better words, why are you not glazing him up? Pause. Dana White should have been glazing up Demetrious Johnson. Obviously to a point, because, Demetrious is not going to be one of those people who's going to, lather up all the fame. But, UFC's this is the greatest champion that we have right now. This is the greatest UFC champion that we have right now. When you get to 6 title defenses in a row, 7 title defenses in a row, 8 title defenses in a row, 9 title defenses in a row, 10 title defenses in a row. Why are you not talking about him? Yeah, sure, we got Ronda Rousey, and she's fighting. But it's not just Ronda. We got this dude who's been defending his title 7, 8 times in a row, running a division. Why are you not glazing him up too? I've always had a few problems with the way UFC markets sometimes, because when Conor McGregor was hot, my goodness, Dana White was doing anything and everything. Even he knew in his mind. I remember I saw this interview where he's like, I don't think Demetrious Johnson's the greatest fighter on the planet. Greatest pound for pound fighter on the planet. I think I'm sorry. If Demetrious Johnson and Conor McGregor fought and everything was fair physically, let's just say they're both the same height and weight, DJ is taking his lunch money. DJ's taking his lunch money the same way Khabib did. DJ's taking Conor McGregor's lunch money. A lot of people are not going to recognize Demetrious Johnson's achievements because, he was a flyweight. He was 125 pounds. He's 5-something. Who gives a shit? You don't do what he's done in the UFC unless he's that good, and he was. Not like UFC doesn't have they don't have scrubs. The one scrub I can remember is two. Then a former boxer's last name Tony, when he was a middleweight, but he just loved eating too much. So eventually he became a heavyweight. Then he came to the UFC and got worked. And the second person was CM Punk. Those are the only 2 times UFC went, I'm going to try this this popularity stunt or whatever. That's the only 2 times they tried it. It's crazy to not market your champion, your dominant champion like that. Because if John Jones was doing that, if Ngannou was doing that, when Ngannou was definitely on his way, if Conor McGregor was doing that, we couldn't think about MMA without the UFC putting some kind of ad out there. And that's also part, I guess you want to say partly it's Demetrious Johnson's fault for not promoting the fight as well as he could. But it's also the UFC's problem. No matter how well DJ can promote a fight, the UFC can always promote it better than the fighter can. The organization can always promote something better than the fighter can. At least I believe in the UFC's case. Maybe in boxing it's different. But if I'm the UFC and I got a fighter who's defended his belt 6-7 times, if he's boring, then it's my job as the organization to pump him up. You know who he is. He's been fighting for you for years. You know, just the right way. You paying your marketing department millions of dollars. You're putting millions of dollars of marketing dollars to promote your fighters. You should be promoting your champions effectively. Why the fuck does Colby Covington keep getting shots at the title? Why the fuck are they still talking about him? When you know he didn't earn his shot, and now deserved fighters are getting brushed aside so Colby Covington can get another shot and probably fucking lose. I'm not saying Colby Covington's a stud or he's a scrub. He's a good fighter. I'm just working on my meager MMA things, but come on, bro.
Threatening to shut down the division.
A couple of years ago, we were actually talking about getting rid of the division.
You just don't like
no
DJ,
pay-per-view points.
Deny giving me any future pay-per-view points.
I believe pay-per-view points are like ways that fighters can make money off their pay-per-view fights. So like determining on maybe it's the amount of people who watch the fight. Or by let me stop because maybe I'm saying this all wrong. And if somebody knows the actual definition of pay-per-view points, I know it depends on how much money a fighter can make, I believe, on his pay-per-view fights, right? Because once you make pay-per-view, what you're fighting on pay-per-view, that's where you could start making like some good money, right? So to speak. So if somebody knows in the comments, just go ahead and give me the definition of pay-per-view points because I don't want to lead anybody wrong.
For all my future flyweight fights.
And forcing him to take fights that made no sense.
Dana angrily told me that I am fighting TJ.
For an organization that professes its professionalism and intent on legitimizing the sport, why were they so ready to scorch the division to a smoldering pile of ashes? Well, business often lacks moral choices, and the UFC puts money well before the sport itself. Demetrious Johnson's time at the UFC was coming to an end, and despite the call from DJ to have an honest conversation about the mistreatment of his career, the UFC never got back to him.
That's freaking crazy. DJ calls, and he seems like that kind of guy. Why would he lie about this? Right? Maybe Conor McGregor would lie. Maybe some other freaking person would lie about how he's being mistreated. But DJ wouldn't. From everything I've seen, he wouldn't. That's just so disappointing, man, to just let a dominant champion like that. And the only reason he's not marketed the way he should is it's your problem. You made it this way. The decision you rapidly made to like, I'm going to talk about Ronda Rousey coming back. Conor McGregor's coming back. All these other people who are rightfully big names in the sport. They are rightfully big names in the sport. But you still got your champions on there. And like I said, there's a disturbing trend of like, especially black champions in UFC not getting the respect they deserve. Everybody laughed at Tyron Woodley when he brought that up. Everybody did. And maybe there's truth to what he said. Maybe Tyron Woodley was just the wrong person to say it. But that's basically like Tom Brady making it to his 8th Super Bowl and then the NFL trades him to the Canadian Football League because he doesn't make it, his Super Bowls don't have that much things to them. Like they don't freaking draw people to watch the Super Bowl when it's your job as the NFL to make people watch that game. I know maybe that's not the right like analogy or comparison or whatever, but that's basically what he is. Like he's the most dominant, one of the most dominant, maybe the most dominant UFC champion of all time. And you just let him go. Jesus Christ, man.
A year goes by, DJ loses the belt in a controversial decision to Cejudo, and well, what happens next was unprecedented.
Ben Askren to be traded to the UFC in exchange for Demetrious Johnson
Demetrious Johnson just left the UFC and went over to ONE FC.
People are like, I feel bad for DJ, but let's be clear right off the top. You're really happy about this, correct?
Yeah, I'm extremely happy.
He's going to be fighting in an organization where he can knee a grounded opponent.
I think to be considered one of the, the best to ever do it or best in this sport is you got to compete all around the world.
Although the future of the flyweight division is now imperiled.
Absolutely, because after he left, I think Cejudo was. I mean, obviously Cejudo was a champion, but how many other like notable fighters did the flyweight division have at the time? So that's fucking crazy. Just let him know. When Kimbo Slice was getting more freaking pub by the UFC than Demetrious Johnson was, and Kimbo Slice was, I mean, he was a YouTube fighting demon. A lot of us watched those videos. We were just fucking dudes up. But do we really need to talk about that Dada 5000 and Kimbo fight? Rest in peace, Kimbo Slice.
Is truly the home of martial arts. It's not just mixed martial arts. They have kickboxing, Muay Thai.
He loves the idea of starting new in a new organization.
DJ was finally free, and he was headed to Singapore.
First of all, what a beautiful country Singapore looks like. Look at them belts too. Woo! There's a certain respect that at least the Asian community has towards mixed martial arts. Like, they understand that these people, they're gladiators, and they give them that respect that, that their fighters deserve, and maybe it's just a Western thing, or maybe it's just an American thing, man. Whether it's celebrities or basically anybody famous, man. Like, at some point, people just start treating them like objects. That doesn't mean you can't point out, like, for instance, I'm going to use Kim Kardashian as an example, okay? You made the sex tape, Kim. You made the sex tape, okay? And at the time, maybe it seemed cool as fuck. You dated a lot of athletes, whatever. It's weird that almost any man that touches that family is ruined. So, but I remember she came out and said, no matter everything that I've done, Kanye stuff, like what Kanye's done will make, like, what Kanye's done to my kids is worse. I was like, they're playing your sex tape on Roblox. Look, I don't condone whatever Kanye has been doing in terms of, low key terrorizing his family and his kids, right, with Kim. But I'm like, I've seen a lot of people, especially a lot of people that I either knew or was kind of close to at the time, treat her like, or talk about her like she was an object. She was like shit, and I'm like, that's wrong. She's still a mother. She still got kids. Because I know, I'm like, yo, if that was your mom, you'd have a fucking problem. And to kind of like this, maybe especially in American culture, we need to give people more respect, especially once they make. You need to give more respect. Like when Dream did his face reveal, bro. He just looked like a regular person, but people treated him like shit. Like they expected him to look like a fucking Adonis or something, bro. He was just a regular dude, and y'all talked about him so bad he deleted the video and went back to not showing his face on camera anymore. Ugh. Eventually, when I do my face reveal, I'm gonna be prepared for that if I ever fucking do one. But I'm like, I know this is just a roundabout saying, like, obviously it's not perfect there either. But like, I really like the respect that at least the Asian culture has toward fighters. And ONE FC definitely, there are a few things I like ONE FC does in terms of their weight cutting. I like how they do their weight cutting. I like the fact that if you go to a ONE FC card, you can get everything. Instead of just getting, if you go to a UFC card, all you're getting is MMA. You could get Muay Thai. You could get grappling. You could get like a full course meal instead of just one entree. And I like that. I want to one day go to a ONE FC event and just watch, man. Because they got some killers over there too.
The West may have dominated the combat sports scenes with the rise of the UFC, but as all combat fans know, the spiritual home of martial arts is in the East, and for one championship, they have owned that space for over a decade now. Rising from the ancestral ashes of Pride and Dream, the CEO of One wanted to give to the fans an organization that not only showcased the honor and skill of the sport's greatest athletes, but to do so in a way that would put on a showcase of talent, prowess, and respect. One championship events can include Muay Thai, grappling, kickboxing, and MMA. From contender fights to title fights to tournament system Grand Prix that harken back to the blood-infused, one-night gladiator-esque evenings of Pride and Dream. And Demetrious was there to cement his legacy. He understood that to be considered the greatest of all time, then facing those warriors in the East is the only way to prove it. And if there are any doubts as to the level of competition that One had on its roster, then just looking at what happened to Demetrious' peers in their transitions speaks for itself.
I think that's BJ Penn, right? Sage Northcutt gets knocked out, but I think he won a fight recently, I believe.
That worried DJ at this point.
Wins and losses happen in mixed martial arts, but at the end of the day, you know, I hope you can be focused on taking care of what matters most, which is your family.
Despite those peers who had stumbled,
I love that outlook, man. Like, obviously, DJ doesn't want to lose. Right? He doesn't want to go up there and lose. He wants to win, like every fighter does. But whether he loses or wins, like his whole life doesn't like revolve around it. You know, he has much more important things to take care of, in his opinion. Like, as much as I love watching Tom Brady play before he retired, like for real this time, like I know this sounds weird to say, because I mean the man has, you know, all the resources in the world. I was always worried about him after he was done playing. Like, would he really just be able to transition to being, like, for lack of better words, like being a civilian? You know, would he just be able to on Sundays turn the TV on and watch somebody else play when he knows that he's still better than him? And then Tom Brady came back right now, he's still a top 15 quarterback. You know, and maybe that's what that last season was for him. Like, I know he didn't play up to Tom Brady standards, right? But he was an average quarterback. You know, obviously he's dealing with the impending end of his career. He's you know, he's dealing with a divorce and all that stuff. So he had a lot of things going on, but you know, it looks like now that he's found a good way to live, right? But those people who put everything, because maybe that's the way they do become great. Michael Jordan put everything into the game. But once the game was done with him, you know, or once he was done with the game, like, was he okay? You know, maybe that's why he's like a big gambling guy. Or maybe that's why he found a way to buy a team and then he still stayed around the game. But DJ seems like he has like this perfect work-life balance that I just adore, and I'm so envious of him, because that's something that people go their whole lives without figuring out. Man.
Before him, Demetrious was not deterred, and that new beginning looming on the not-so-distant horizon brought with it an interesting and dramatic road to the ultimate goal of one flyweight world champion, a 3-stage Grand Prix with 8 men in contention for the tournament belt, and ultimately a shot at the man atop the division. Demetrious' mindset going into the first bout in the East was focused and realistic of the challenge that awaited him.
Because of who you are and because of what you did in the UFC,
I just wish they could fix the focus, man.
This draw. But I don't imagine that you're taking it that way, right?
No, not at all. That's the perception on North America audience, is that even when the true fans of mixed martial arts, they know that there's a bigger world out there.
I think UFC fans, if they ever get a chance to watch ONE FC, just try it out, man. Like, I think you're really limiting yourself, especially as a fan of mixed martial arts, by just watching the UFC. I get it. Maybe it's harder to watch even smaller promotions, but ONE FC, I enjoy watching those fights, man. I enjoy watching those. I enjoy watching at least the cards. I haven't bought a lot of cards in terms of like whether it's boxing or whatever. But when his trilogy fight with Adriano Moraes, I bought that card, and they were fighting, I believe, in Denver. The first time ONE FC came to America, and it was a fantastic card. Plus, watching DJ get his get back and sealing the trilogy off for good was amazing. And I was like, my God. And then I think I've only bought maybe like 3 to 4 cards in my time. I bought the Pacquiao Mayweather fight because, I mean, who didn't buy that fight? Because you just had to see it. Like, finally it was happening. So I bought that one, even though I knew nothing about boxing. I bought that one and watched it by myself at the crib. But my goodness, man. Just check out ONE FC if you ever get a chance.
And just the UFC.
I feel like I'm straight up shilling and I'm not even getting paid by them. But ONE FC is just something special. That deep choke. And showcasing them, no matter where he goes on the planet, man, he's still one of the best. Maybe the best. I love ONE FC's like presentation too, in terms of like they took some stuff from pro wrestling in terms of the stage and all that stuff. I love that. What a! I wish I knew what was happening in terms of like the technical stuff. Oh, look at that belt! Meaty as fuck. Look at that thing.
A long and arduous 2019 culminated in the ultimate prize of a new belt.
The thing that always freaks me out is like, yo, how do you just like get into like a knockout, drag out fight, then like a couple months later you're like, I'm fucking doing it again. Like, cause you're always, you know, if you're an MMA fighter especially, like you're always training because they gotta have backup fighters just in case like somebody gets hurt in training or all that. You're just always training. And like Masvidal, we use that Masvidal Ben Askren one, like you've been amped up for this fight. You knocked the dude out in a second. And then you got all this energy because you're like, I was prepared for a war tonight. And then you're like, what I do now? Obviously, you go celebrate and get crunk, right? That's what you do that night. You go to the club. You got bottle service, even though bottle service is one of the greatest wastes of money in life. One of the greatest. But nah, you said fuck it that night. I'm getting the knockout of the night bonus. I'm getting the win bonus. I'm getting the money. We getting crunk, baby. We getting crunk. And then like immediately maybe you take a couple days off. You're like, well, I got another fight in 3 months. Or I got another fight in like a month or 2 months. And let's start fucking training again. That's fucking crazy.
And a shot at the one flyweight champion. DJ would join those peers before him who had pioneered the sport, collecting tournament and Grand Prix belts in Asia those long decades ago. The likes of Dan Henderson, Fedor Emelianenko, and Wanderlei
It's crazy
Silva.
Fedor never
It's a
came in the
prestigious
UFC.
moment for
I
any
know
combat
Patrick
sports
Gavia got a
athlete that is
video
often
on him.
so
I gotta watch that
lacking in
too.
the West.
I just like Grand Prix belts. I mean, it's just big and meaty and
God
heavy.
damn,
and,
look at that thing.
you know, so for me, I almost want to call myself the belt collector, but
One
belt
championship had not given DJ an easy ride to the title, but over the course of a grueling and demanding year, he had earned his shot at the current flyweight champion, Adriano
It's
Moraes.
crazy this happened during COVID, so you couldn't get like the full true experience, so to speak.
Step after step down the ramp toward the cage, the greatest fighter of all time was knowingly waltzing into the shimmering...
That's such a crazy title to say, like he's the greatest fighter of all time. And you can't be like, like you have to consider it. You have to. His accolades, the way he fights, like the way he's won, like you can't dismiss it if you're being 100% honest with yourself.
haze of a battle that would further distance himself in the discussion of who the greatest was. Life is transient, but legacy is forever.
You both know the rules, fight fair, fight clean, temper if you want.
Staying out of reach of the hands of Demetrious, almost walked into a high knee there, did TJ. He got floored by Moraes. Cross a knee to the jaw, TJ's hurt, it's good night, Ivy!
And I'm so happy because Demetrious Johnson came to a championship, you know, like, and opened this door for me again, one more door. So it gave the opportunity to test myself against him. I love the rules of one championship, you know, I've been in one championship 8 years already.
I think it also says something about one that you can have killers there, like Adriano Moraes. Let's use him for example. He's like, I'm perfectly content just fighting here for the rest of my career. You don't need to go to the UFC to be recognized as one of the best. You know? I'm sure if Adriano wanted to come to the UFC, Dana White would be interested. But like, he's like, I'm fine here. My goodness, man.
Hey, goodbye, brother.
Look at that, man. And obviously, DJ's probably mad, but you know, he finds a way, and that's probably what helps him get over the losses and go back to the gym again. Shout out. That's crazy that they met. You know, it's such a small world, but they met, and then they met in the cage. And we get a little Adriano Moraes action.
For Adriano Moraes, life would not provide an easy start. Abandoned at birth by his biological mother, Moraes was taken into the local orphanage before being adopted 3 years later by his mother, Mertis Moraes. But life after being adopted wasn't any easier in the rough and violent streets of Brazil. From racism to gang fights, Adriano needed a new outlet to escape the harsh reality of his upbringing. And this is where he would find jiu-jitsu. It was a sport that would craft and mold.
It's crazy,
man,
the kind of killers that Brazil keeps pumping out when it comes to jiu-jitsu. And my boy just racking up medals and all that stuff, man.
That time he tried that move and it eventually paid off.
An avenue to escape a brutal childhood led Adriano not only to championship glory with one, but an 18-3 record and a dance with greatness. And in a beautiful display of warfare, Moraes would become the first fighter to finish the greatest MMA practitioner to have ever graced the canvas, and extending to 19 wins in his career. It's an inspiring story of not only resilience in the face of hardship, but also defiance to not fall victim to the same violent
I would like to know
Brazil
more about
so
Adriano
Moraes,
but you know, these fighters, man, they just have these great stories. These stories that deserve to be told, especially given what they accomplish. So they just deserve to be told. I'd love to learn more about Adriano Moraes if somebody has a documentary out there.
Back in the US, Demetrious, with time to reflect on the previous year, would be facing a shift in mentality, driven by more than just the loss of his fight.
After the first fight I had with him, I went through 2020 was a huge shift in my life, you know, that affected me. When I lost that first fight to him, I wasn't mad about losing. I was mad about I put so much pressure on myself about being perfect. This is where it kind of stemmed from. So I was getting ready for a fight. My sister, she died, and then seeing her pass, and then seeing basically the end game of life, right? Like being there and seeing her just like, she's there, and then seeing her go through the trauma, and then her being gone, and then seeing the traumatic, how it affected my mom. Like I called Matt, I was like, hey, I'm not gonna be in training today. I gotta go bury my sister, right? And I took a step back and I was like, man, I'm always training for a fight. Everybody's so worried about winning and losing. Why?
Because you're gonna die someday.
You're gonna die someday.
Faced with not only the first...
That's what I'm talking about right there. That kind of look. Nobody's saying to throw it away, but so especially in America, man. Where did I hear this from? But I can't remember where I heard it from, but somebody said it, and it's just stuck in my mind. Like, America is a for-profit society. We're always looking to advance. And those that do, it's an incredible story. Watching Bill Gates make something in his garage turning into, at one point, the richest man on the planet. But I think at the end of it all, when you're done with life, when you're like Bill Gates and you've done everything, what do you really have left? Did you enjoy the time? Did you stop and smell the roses, so to speak? Like, to use DJ, to kind of use what was just said there in that clip. So much time training that even if it's just by accident or inadvertently, like, he's neglecting other stuff in his life that's also important. Obviously, he takes care of his family. Obviously, he loves his wife. Obviously, he loves his kids. But, like, I think Tom Brady said this once. He's like, I'm missing things, you know? I've missed some things that are important to my kid. And, you know, these things demand a lot. It's not just like professional sports. It's a lot of things, whether it's investment banking or being a lawyer or being any kind of myriad of other professions. These things demand a lot out of you. And instead of just worrying about what do I need to do next, which is also important, right? Because you still got to look to the future. But finding that, like I said, he has this perfect work-life balance, at least the perception of it, right? I mean, only DJ can say for himself, which I still got to stop calling him that. I am not familiar with him enough to call him DJ because I don't want to make him mad if he ever watches this video. But to just have that, like, I'm okay. You know, I don't need, in DJ, in Mighty Mouse's case, I don't need to be perfect. You know, I'm okay. I've done a lot of great things. I'm going to continue to do a lot of great things. But there's so much more than MMA. There's so much more than fighting. There's so much more than training. And I can do it. I can still train. I can still enjoy fighting. But I can do other stuff too. I don't know if I'm even saying this right, but hopefully you guys got what I'm trying to say. It's just that outlook. I hope one day, if my channel ever gets big enough, that I'm able to talk to him and just kind of see. Sure, maybe I'll ask him about his fights or like some tough moments about his life, but I'll just ask him, like, how do you see life? What would you tell anyone about life? Because life can be anything to multiple people. But his outlook on life, I'm very interested to hear about and just listen. Because I think I could learn something from that. A lot of people who are the best at what they do don't have that outlook, whether it's Tom Brady or Bill Gates or Wayne Gretzky. Obviously, I don't know what these people actually think about life, right? But Mighty Mouse seems to have, like, the best way. He seems to have, like, kind of figured it out, right? And he's just okay living his life that way. He's okay being a nerd and still being one of the baddest dudes on the planet. He's okay being like a cringy, maybe he's full of dad jokes, but he's there for his family. My goodness, man. He just seems like he figured it out. And I want to get there one day.
First finished loss of his career, but the impact of his sister's death finally catching up with him, it all served as a catalyst to fuel a mindset change, to let go of being perfect, to rescind the ego. Wins and losses would become fleeting moments of ecstasy or misery. Yes, legacy is forever, but death is the great equalizer. Belts will rust, memories will fade, but life is now.
Still want to see the belts,
Family
though.
is here, and living within this moment is the only truth. Without the weight of great expectations, the obsession with perfection, Johnson was finally free.
Being free.
Demetrious would live by the words he protested when entering into one, stating that no title shot is earned by the sake of a name, and felt that although he could ask and receive an immediate rematch, that he would instead earn himself the shot by plunging himself in the fires of another would-be challenger.
After I lost to him, because there's other guys in the division.
There's so many people who just immediately
those two guys were kind of on a win streak.
Rematch.
And you know me, I'm by the code.
Not many people
right?
would
It's
do
like you lose,
what DJ
take your ass
did,
back down to the ladder, work your way back up, give the other guys opportunities to get a chance to fight for the belt.
Well, that's what he
Can
thought.
somebody put a DJ counter in the
however,
comments? I want to see how many
one that would
times I
bring
called
a
him
fresh
DJ.
new take to the combat sports world. A hybrid
last one
fight
doesn't
with
count.
one of the most flashy, devastating, and technical Muay Thai fighters of all time.
Rodtang is
The
a
current
stud. I believe Joe Vincent made a video about him, and he's been fighting since he was a child, bro. He got mad victories. He's a stud and got one of the most iron chins I've ever seen. If that's even a sentence. My goodness, let's back it up.
Most flashy, devastating, and technical
See,
Muay
that
Thai
guy, he's
fighters
like,
of all time.
"Ooh,
The current
boy."
one flyweight Muay Thai world champion. A man who had accumulated 250 wins in the game by the age of 21. The man is a
250?
wrecking ball in the cage and a guaranteed showman. His name? Rodtang. But this wasn't any ordinary fight.
So, Rodtang, right? He's that guy, like, okay, give me an example. So, let's just use when you are in school. Or maybe you're in school right now. Live your life. You know when you see that hot girl in school and you can immediately tell, oh, she knows how hot she is. To me, that was one of the most dangerous people I could ever interact with. I would go out of my way to not talk to them, which one time in high school got me in trouble. But hey, I'm all right. I'm doing all right over here. She had the problem. Who doesn't matter. But I always avoided those people, like those people who like, I'm hot and I know it and I know how to use it. And I'm like, Raw Tang's like, I'm fucking good at this and I know it. You know it. And I'm about to style on you, son. And my goodness, man. Maybe by the time he's done, he's the greatest MMA fighter, not MMA, Muay Thai fighter of all time. Because my boy got some sauce to his game.
Rounds 1 and 3 would be Muay Thai, 2 and 4 MMA. The question was, would DJ be able to survive the onslaught of the first round? That infamous barrage of violence that was well known to spew out of Rodtang? Or would he survive to the second round and show what it means
only like
to
21 or
mix all
some
martial arts? Well, there was only one way to find
young
out.
as fuck. You can actually watch this fight on YouTube if you search it. Like One Championship has the full fight up. What I loved is that DJ was training with him. He's not just like trying to survive. He's throwing with him. I like that. Obviously, if DJ had to fight him in a full Muay Thai fight, he's gonna lose. But he's like, I'm not just gonna sit here and stand like a bitch and try to survive a whole ass round. Nah, I'm kicking you. I'm punching back, bruh. I ain't no scrub. And he's like, yeah, let's keep it going. I like that. I really like that. I was like, why not? Some respect to it. And then Rodtang is like, I'm down too. He tried his own way. You can tell Rodtang's not experienced in MMA, but he's like, I'm fighting too. But DJ's just so patient and finally gets him because Lord knows. Hold on. Ooh, Lord knows he was trying to take his whole head off with that hook, bro. But DJ's like, finally. And he's like, I'm taking you down, and this game is over. Takes his bag and chokes him all the way out because Rodtang ain't no bitch. He ain't tapping, bro. Look at that. He's like, I'm not tapping. And then he goes out, and then the ref's like stops it, and it's over. I wonder, since he's so young, how this loss will affect him, right? Because obviously it's not like he lost in Muay Thai, but maybe this loss to Demetrious Johnson turns him to like a fucking animal in Muay Thai because he's like, I never want to experience this again, even though it was something. I know it sounds like a gimmick, but I liked it. I like the idea. Maybe if Rodtang could be maybe even better, maybe a little bit better in MMA, that what if this fight went like in the 5th round, they're like, fuck it, bro. Like rounds 2 and like you made it the 5th round and what do? And maybe one's like, figure it out. And that's when they just fucking throw bows or whatever. And that's when it's a full, like it's MMA. But Rodtang's like, nah, bro, we fight Muay Thai. Maybe, who knows what would have happened. But I think that there's maybe some like future to those kind of, for lack of a better word, gimmick fights where maybe one round's boxing, the second round is Muay Thai. And if you just find, it's obviously, it depends on the pair of athletes you put in there, right? So if you put Rodtang in with like a really good boxer, but hopefully that boxer knows how to fight Muay Thai better than most, that would be something. And the respect they both have for each other, man. Oh my God.
And as the taste of victory washed away that sour flavor of defeat that had clung to the palate of Johnson for the last 3 months, there was another man who was fighting in the arena that very same night, a haunting visage, a remnant from DJ's past.
Look at that. Took his back on the takedown, sealed the choke on the takedown, and he won again.
2 men were showered in victory that night, both walking the streets of Singapore with another win notched into their deepening
that gold
legacy.
One is sick. One, let's talk. Can I get a belt replica, please? Just tell me where I can go buy it. 'Cause look at that thing, man. That thing, it looks big. It's like, yeah, this is the champion.
And so there was only one natural progression from this point, the rematch, a chance for these two men to determine who the best was, a chance of redemption for DJ, and for Moraes, a moment to show that greatness is not determined overnight but through patience, hard work and grit. It was a night to show that determination to stay in the game despite losses is what separates champions from contenders. What was on the line could not be overstated for these two men, and the East would play host to a rematch for the ages.
Tomorrow night, you have the opportunity to not only avenge your loss, but take his title.
Tomorrow, I get an opportunity to exact revenge, and it's a storyline in my arc for redemption. So tomorrow, coming on with a brand new belt and let's go!
It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out.
Yeah, I wonder how much they took from pro wrestling with this, because if you're telling me this was like a stage for like WWE, I kind of believe you. Maybe the giant Titantron, I'd be like, yo, you need that giant ass fucking screen. But I like this presentation, you know, and then plus the walk with the crowd back. Oh,
how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
You both know the rules, fight fair, fight clean, touch grave.
Block those knees, man. Because I know in the UFC you can't do that, right? You can't knee them when they're on the ground. You can't knee it down the opponent.
I wonder if this is a different strategy in this round.
But then, boom, catches him. Flying knee. Game over. Game over. Gets him right back. And he's champion. Look at that belt, bruh.
The fact is, the fight game is often not so cut and dry. Its stories intersplice, no good nor evil, only winners and losers. That cold-pressed reality leaves its stinging mark, amplified by the inspiring tales that flutter in and out of mind, of racism, of abuse, death, life and dreams. And as the coarse canvas of the ring's floor plays host to two men, each with a tale of struggle, pain, suffering and hope, we try to dissect the dichotomy at play, the wicked game of glory and defeat. And whether they are fighting for family, money or fame, it doesn't matter when the ring chimes, it's a call to destiny. In those moments of battle, the subtle nuances of each feint, twitch and movement of the opponent grip the heightened senses of each fighter, both waiting for the opportune moment to unleash a strike to end the conflict. Whether it's an orphan rising from nothing, intent on claiming back the belt that offered him and his newfound family freedom from suffering, or the greatest combat athlete in the sport who aims to eliminate any would-be claimants to his throne, the fight game will remain its ruthless and beautiful, unforgiving self, and deliver onto us one winner and one loser. So what does fate have in store for these two men? We can't be certain, but US soil will host an historic event, a consequential rubber match, and the American arrival of one championship in Denver. Their ring will welcome those competitors whose face is marred by dust, blood and sweat, those practitioners who aim to strive valiantly. We will watch as these two men attempt another great victory.
So, Demetrious wins the third fight and, seals the trilogy. But this is obviously no fault from Moraes. Moraes is a good fighter from what I've seen, right? He's a very good fighter. But my goodness, man, and then I believe he retired after this. So I watched Henry Cejudo's video on him watching the fight because I believe he was coming back to fight for the championship against Aljamain Sterling, I believe. Which I don't understand why people really hate that guy. But, and unfortunately Cejudo lost. So he couldn't. God, that would have been crazy if it was a double victory. Because then they both would have popped up on YouTube like, yep, we both shivered and go home, baby. But You know, just like he said, that's how the fight game goes, man. So he wins, and what a fantastic video. Let's let it finish out. What a fantastic video. My goodness, man. What a fantastic video. So, that was the UFC's biggest failure. The fact that they let him go. And you let the GOAT, you let a GOAT of the sport go over some dumb shit, for real. So, but I mean, what a freaking video by Mixed Martial Academic. I'm always gonna look out for his stuff because I'm subscribed to him on my personal channel. Check out Mighty Gaming to see DJ in all his glory. I gotta stop calling him that. God dang. Check out Patrick Gavia's stuff because he also does great work. I would like to see them do a collab one day, maybe. I think that'd be awesome. But yeah, man, that was the video. I want to talk about my channel, so to speak. So 300 subscribers, huh? Thank you so much for that. I know I've been dropping a lot of stuff lately with the Mushoku Tensei reviews and me doing reactions. Now I want to do at least one reaction a week to kind of give you guys something while I work on the Bago video plus the other stuff. So yeah, I've been watching The Lincoln Lawyer, and for the first time watching something live action, I was like, I want to make a why you should watch about this because The Lincoln Lawyer is fantastic. But how could you leave us like that in season 2, Netflix? How could you leave us like that? But yeah, if you guys have anything you guys want me to react to, let me know because I am definitely all about it. I've been seeing like my channel getting a lot more love lately, so I wonder what's going on. Maybe the algorithm gods are being favorable to me. And yeah, man, let me know if you got some reaction videos, or if you want me to react to anything else, because I'm just gonna be reacting to things that I really wanted to like show you guys. But if you guys have something, let me know. I know there was somebody in the comments who was talking about there was a special story about the tavern from the 1,000 player ish Minecraft video I should check out. So I'm probably gonna check that out and see. And actually, you know what? Should I just do it live? No, like completely blind reaction, because I think I should do that. I might have a collab in the works, so to speak, too, with another creator from Twitch. So be on the lookout for that. That's gonna be fun. Bago Video's working on it steadily. I finished the first. I guess I can say I finished about a quarter of the video. Had to do a lot of reworks to the script. Right now I'm sitting at like 10 pages of the script, and I don't know if I want the video. That sounds like it's gonna be a really long video, and I'm trying to keep it like at least around an hour. Right now, maybe even less, because I mean, look at the video, Bago video itself. It's my most watched video, and it's freaking not even 10 minutes. So I don't wanna go too long, but thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and learn more about Demetrious Johnson. Okay.